Welcome back, and today we're going to talk about graphing inequalities on a coordinate plane. This is a review lesson because the next lesson is going to be graphing systems of inequalities. So we want to make sure that we are able to do the classic, just a single inequality on a coordinate plane before jumping onto a system. Now, this inequality should look similar to y equals mx plus b, and it is. You're going to use the same concepts, except for this inequality is, of course, different from an equal sign. So you're going to have a couple different rules you need to do. I'll go over those rules on the next page. This inequality on the top would look something like this. You've got your line just like normal, but then you're going to have part of the graph that is shaded. Okay? And what that means is any points in this shaded region or on this line would make this inequality true. So inequalities don't just have one right answer. They have tons of right answers. Okay? Again, anything in a shaded region or on a solid line would be a solution to an inequality. Now, the rules I talked about are right here. Feel free to pause the video or take a picture because I like to have these out, or I like to recommend to my students to have these out when they do their homework. Now, when you graph inequalities, you treat it like y equals mx plus b, as in you're going to find the dots, like you're going to put a dot at your slope-intercept, then move the slope and put a second dot. Once you have two dots, you're pretty much going to use a couple unique rules after that. You're going to look at the inequality sign. Is there a line under it or not? Okay. If there's not a line underneath your inequality sign, like these guys, if it's less than or greater than, you just use a dotted straight line. If there's a line underneath, you're going to use a solid line. Okay. I think this guy here, we have a line underneath the inequality, and so we use a solid line for the equation. Now, if y is greater than or greater than equal to, you shade above the y-intercept, okay? So wherever the y-intercept is, you need to shade above that, and that's going to include the whole section. So you're going to shade that section above the y-intercept. If y is less than or less than equal to, you shade below the y-intercept. What does this look like? Well, looking back to here, y is greater than, the y-intercept's right here. We shade the region, this whole region, that is above the y-intercept. And you might say, Mr. Michelson, this is clearly not above the y-intercept. That is true, but it is in this section that is above the y-intercept. Okay, that's what we're shading here. We're always going to either shade, kind of top guy or bottom guy, or left guy or right guy, and you just need to figure out, well, which section has the part of the graph that's above the y-intercept, and that section is the one you shade. Let me do one with you guys. So, oh my, I put a equal sign. Let's do a less than. Boom. Here we go. So we got y is less than negative 2x plus 3. We're going to put an m. Oh, I'm going to do that in red so you can see it better. We're going to put an m above the slope and a b above the y-intercept. Remember, we're going to go up to 3 on the y-axis and put a nice dot. Boom. This one's my y, this one's my x. And then I move the slope. I like putting an over 1. That just helps me with rise over run. From my y-intercept, I go down 2 and right 1. I'm going to put a dot right about there, because I went down 2, right 1. That's my slope. Boop, right there. Now I pause. Why am I pausing? Because now the rest of the problem needs to get solved with my inequality rules. Y is less than. What kind of line do I use? I use a dotted line. You can also use a dashed line. Some teachers will say that. It's really whatever you want to do. It has to somehow, maybe dashed works better, not going to lie. But it can't be a solid line. Okay. And why is that important? Well, a dashed line means that this is almost like a fence, but the fence is not included in the solution set. Okay. So remember back here, any points in the shaded region or on the line would work for the inequality. With a situation like this, where there's no line underneath, this line acts as a boundary, but it is not included in the solution set. And where do I shade? Y is less than. Less than. I shade below the y-intercept. Y-intercept right here. I need to shade the region that's below the y-intercept. That whole region down there. So, let's see if I can do this. So this whole region would get shaded. When you're shading with a pencil, just do a light shade. You don't need to burn your pencil out trying to shade a region. Anyway, that's your quick review on graphing inequalities. The next lesson is going to be on graphing systems. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.